Hawaii Entertainment News, where we will talk about all the news that's happening around the film and entertainment industry in Hawaii.
You're supposed to say, I told you so.
Enough. Are you okay?
Oh my gosh, he's Superman!
This is a video game, which means we all have special skills.
Aloha. This is Leilani Ke Aloha, and welcome to Hawaii Entertainment News. Today we have a special guest, Erich Steinwandt-Gudoy. He is the stage manager of the Manoa Valley Theatre. Welcome, Erich. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Steinwandt-Gudoy. Yeah, or Steinwandt, depending on who you're talking to. Yeah, German pronunciation versus American, so.
Please tell us all about the Manoa Valley Theatre.
So we are a small black box theater. So we seat in our standard house configuration, we seat about 165 people. But because we are a black box, we can flip things around. So we can do cabaret shows where we're maybe only seating about 150 people, or we can do shows with entirely smaller sets and sit in about almost 200 people. So it all depends on what configuration we are in, where our entrances and exits are for the physical building, that sort of thing. But we get a lot of audience members that come through, not only from Hawaii, but tourists that come through that know of us and they want to come and support our quirkiness, because we do the shows that most of the bigger theaters are too afraid to touch. So, and that's kind of how MVT started out. It was those very, the racially intriguing type shows. One that I kept pushing for, that I told my house manager she would hate to do because of the cleanup, is Evil Dead the Musical. Evil Dead the Musical. So it's basically the movie Evil Dead, but it's the musical version of it. And a lot of theaters, when they do it, they actually issue their audience ponchos if you're in the first 5 rows, because that is the blood splatter zone. So, and it's a great, script, it's fun music, but it is that type of show where they're hacking off body parts, so it is spraying out at the audience. But I think it'd be a fun show to do out here in a graveyard, It might leave people a little creeped out as they're leaving at the end of the show, but I mean, we did Woman in Black here, and as the audience left, we had one of the actresses who was still dressed up as the ghost character, so she would be walking through the graveyard as you were exiting the building, so you were never quite sure, was that an actual ghost or was that the character from the stage? So I think we could do Evil Dead. We can bring in some zombie action here, So I started as a volunteer here in '97, and then I came on to the full-time staff in 2003, and I've been administrative assistant, administrative manager, that sort of thing ever since. Most of my thing though is the stage management. It's the nighttime portion. So most of our staff that works here, we will flip between 2 roles. We are daytime, we're the full-time staff that's giving the support as far as ticket sales and running the day-to-day business. And then nighttime, we switch over into volunteer mode. We're one of the theaters who our staff has actually been probably together the longest, most of us. Prior to our new director who just took over the position a year ago, the previous boss was in the position for 30 years. And his assistant was off and on in her position for almost 20 some odd years. So we stick together as long as possible. We've all grown up knowing each other. We've watched people go and get married. We've watched our, the staff kids grow up, graduate college. Some of them go off and get married. So we're like a nice, close family here.
Aloha, this is Leilani Ke Aloha with Hawaii Entertainment News. We have officially made it to the 1-year mark of the initial COVID shutdown, as we celebrate the vaccine and the 29,000 survivors. We also mourn the 459 souls that the coronavirus has taken away from us in the islands. We encourage you to keep wearing your mask, keep 6 feet apart, and keep washing your hands. We don't want to lose anyone else. Congratulations to the Manoa Valley Theatre for putting on their first play since the shutdown. Popcorn Falls was a delight for those that were able to see it live, and an absolute treat for those that were able to see the live broadcast from home. 2 actors, Brandon Carrere and Nick Amador, play over 20 roles in a world of farce, love, and desperation, providing once and for all that art can save the world. Behind the Scenes with Lawrence Fishburne was filming at our local Rooster Farms, so stay tuned to see how much work goes into making that morning cup of coffee. The Miss Latina Hawaii Scholarship Organization is now taking applications. You Had Me at Aloha by Hallmark has wrapped and will air June 5th. The Made in Hawaii Film Festival took place last weekend at the Hilo Palace Theater and featured some really great locally made films. These are the winners. Best Feature Film, Tokyo Hula. Best Short Film, The Pit Where We Were Born. Best Cinematography, Swarm Season. Best Music Video, You Were Once Wild. Congratulations to all our local filmmakers. Keep up the good work. This is Leilani K. Aloha with Hawaii Entertainment News. Now back to the show.
In Hawaii, it's weird because we have, like I know especially in the mainland, they talk about how it is very hard to find people to play various roles. And I mean, especially here in Hawaii, we do get that issue, but we do a lot of colorblind casting on roles when we have to, because it is very hard to find certain types of actors for stuff. It would be so nice if we didn't have to, you know, dig through and try and find people, but if we actually had more actors that were coming through who fit the various requirements of the roles that we're looking for, whether it's looking for, you know, someone who is Hawaiian to play a Hawaiian role, or the black actors, or even we get some where you have a disabled person on stage where you have to have a capable person who's playing the role versus someone who actually has that because they feel they can't come forward and audition for shows. And it would be so nice if you could actually get those. I had a woman who a few years ago had said, oh, you would never cast me because I'm in a wheelchair. And it's like, well, can you sing? Yeah. Can you dance? Yeah. Can you act? Yeah. Okay, then why wouldn't we cast you? And they're like, well, I just assumed because I'm in the wheelchair you wouldn't. It's like, well, no, I will build a ramp if we have to get you onto the stage. If you can sing and you can, you know, act and fit the requirements, come down and audition for shows. Don't feel like you can't do it. Or we get a lot that says, I'd be perfect for this role, but I don't act. We can teach you to act. We can teach you to do this stuff, you know, so come down. Don't feel afraid. So if we had more people like that who would just come forward so we didn't have to, you know, basically dig the bottom or bring people in from elsewhere, that would be so great.
Do you think there's a role for me?
You know what? I haven't read a lot of the shows yet, but I am willing to bet there are a couple of great roles for you. Can you speak Pidgin?
Pidgin? Shoots, brah.
You know, Hawaiian Pidgin. Well, Once Upon One Time, which was supposed to end our 51st season, will now end our 52nd season. And there are so many fun local roles in that where, you know, those who can speak Pidgin. There are a couple of the non-locals who get to come through the cast, like the Lost Princess, who is a white girl, and a couple of the others. So it's a very diverse group. They need the Hawaiians, they need the Japanese, they need everybody. You're it. You should come audition. Can you sing?
Singing? Oh, no.
Man.
No.
All right, well, we could probably teach you how to sing for that, you know?
That'll take some work.
It'll take some work. Because I hear it's easier to sing than it is to speak Pidgin.
If can, can. If no can, no can.
You know, the first time we did the show, and then there's a role for a Lost Princess who is supposed to be the white girl. She is the traditional princess versus the local. So this girl came in to audition and she was just like, hello, can you help me? I have heard you are doing this show called Once Upon One Time and it needs a white person like me. And she was just very stereotypical blonde white girl. Perfect. She comes in, she auditions, perfect. She comes into the rehearsal the first day and she goes, oh, what's up, guys? And she just, boom, pigeon comes out. We're like, wait. Where are you from? She's like, oh, Kahuku, born and raised. We're like, so you speak pigeon? She goes, yeah, but I figured if I came in talking like a local, but looking like the princess, I wouldn't get cast. And it was like perfect. So you made yourself basically appear into something you weren't just to get the role. And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And it was like, okay, right there, girl. You got it. And I mean, and it's one of those things, like she basically thought she wouldn't get the role if people knew she could speak pigeon. But so even if you think you can't sing or you think you can't do the role, give it a shot. Give it a try. And make yourself just appear to be something slightly different if you have to get that role. Yeah. I've gotten some film actors who have come through and like, they will do the show and like, we'll tell them during rehearsal, like, okay, stop, we need to do this again. We need to rehearse it. I'm like, well, we'll just get it different on the next take. And it's like, there is no next take. And like, no, but you know, if the audience doesn't like it, we'll just take two, right? It's like, no, it's when the audience is here, you have one shot to get it right. So this is why you rehearse for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, every day, so that you can get it right and do it in one take when your audience is there. And I mean, it's a challenge for actors because you are seeing your audience. Unlike when you're at a movie, the only time you're seeing them is if you attend the viewing of it and you see what they're doing. So sometimes there are some shows we've done that are so emotional that the actors are watching the audience on stage and they're just so drawn into the audience's reactions that they're forgetting what they're supposed to be doing on stage. So they got to kind of close that imaginary fourth wall, pull themselves back just so they don't get too involved in what the audience is reacting to. So, but I mean, we have audience that after the shows, they will just stick around and they will be like, you know, what you did on stage, I can totally relate to. I went through that same experience in life, or, you know, I had a family member who was, so they get pulled into it with us. And it's nice when you can pull people into that world. So if you're doing a nice, fun, you know, uplifting show, it's great when you have the audience leaving at the end and when they're all like clapping and into it. And at the same time, when you do a very emotional show, it's great when you can see the audience actually leaving in tears because you know you did a great job. And one of the things we like to do is if we have a particularly offensive show or offensive moment in a show, our actors will actually keep a tally of, could I get someone to walk out of the show during this moment? And a lot of people are like, oh, that's horrible though, if someone left the show. But it's like, well, it's horrible, but at the same time, it meant you did your job well. If you're supposed to offend somebody on stage and you can offend him to the point where the actor or the audience has to leave, you know you did a good job with telling it and you know that you were making them think. And that's really what theater is about, is thought-provoking. You want to make your audience think about what's happening. And if they get so involved with the thought process that they actually have to leave, you know you did something right. So yeah, it's fun to watch actors who do that. They'll have the tally of, okay, I offended this person 5 times. I offended this person, you know, like 7 times. You didn't get anyone to leave on your offensive line or your moment. So it's motivating. And we've had some people who they will get offended and they will leave, but they will stick around after to talk to the actor and be like, this is what offended me about your thing. And they're like, good. That's what you're supposed to feel. You are supposed to feel so horrible at that point that you want to get up and leave. So I did my job well. Years ago, we did cabaret here, and one of the great moments of the show, aside from, you know, watching the transformation of the cast go from these nice nightclub characters into the Nazis, basically, but at the end of the show, we ended it with floor-to-ceiling swastikas, flags, that dropped down. Right. And we had one night where maybe 2 or 3 audience members, and these were young people, they were in their early 20s, they watched the flags go, and it was just like gripping the seat, and they slowly had to get up and just exit the building. And so afterwards they were talking with the cast and they were like, you know, the performance was great, your acting was great, your singing was great, but my ancestors were, you know, my relatives were in the concentration camps, and just seeing the flag, I just couldn't do it. And they're like, why would you do that to us? And it was like, it's for the shock. It's to make you think. It's to have, you know, theater is supposed to be a thought-provoking experience at times. It can't always be fun and song and dance and all that. So they're like, did it make you think about that? And they're like, yeah, it made me think about that and how horrible it was. And I don't want that to ever happen again. And it's like, and now you've learned what you have to learn. And you need to make sure now that this never happens again. Yep. Tech Week. Tech Week is my cardio. So I've actually been very bored during this social isolation, and I like to throw out odd sayings to people as I'm running in for places and stuff. And someone had once, a couple like weeks ago, had said, "Oh, when can I get that on a shirt?"
Oh, nice.
So I was like, all right, I was bored last week, so I went on and I created Tech Week is my cardio.
I love it.
Tech Week, Hell Week, as some people call it, because that is when everything is coming together. A lot of sweat, a lot of tears. Dry tech, wet tech. A lot of people come into the theater going, what the heck? Like, what is dry tech versus wet tech? And you know, sometimes I get confused. I'm like, wait, are we in dry now? Are we in wet now? Tech in general is basically when you start layering in the technical elements of the show. So when you are in rehearsal mode, usually your actors are offsite in the rehearsal hall. They have no sets, they have no lights, they have no costumes, and they come to us. They come to the technical people, and we basically will throw them into the element. We will get them wet with tech. So your first tech rehearsal, your dry tech, is anywhere from 1 day to 3 days long, depending on the theater you're at. You start getting in the lighting equipment. You start, you know, we throw at them the gobos that's going to be seen on their set, or trap doors if necessary. Once they get into the day of only tech people, we throw the actors in. We get the actors wet, basically, and we will throw them in with the tech people and basically make them learn the show, sometimes all over again. We will make them reblock the show. We'll make them change where their entrances and exits are to accommodate what the tech people can actually do on stage. Sometimes you have trapdoors in a show, and the trapdoor isn't necessarily where the actor has rehearsed it. We need to throw them in with a new element, or, you know, a new position on stage. It's also the time where we start to hang the scenery pieces. There's a lot of terms in theater that people outside of theater would probably hear and be like, oh my God, that is so offensive. I can't believe you said that. So let me just say, this is not an offensive term. When we say when you start to hang the blacks in the theater, those are your hard legs and your soft legs of what basically mask what the audience doesn't see. Some theaters, we will still use the black curtains. We have the hard leg. If you hit it, it's hard. It is a piece of wood that is masked by the black fabric to basically keep the audience from seeing what's on the sides. Everything after that is your soft leg. It's a softer piece of fabric that if you hit it, you're fine with. You're not going to hurt yourself. But that's how we create the wings. So you'll often hear people talking about, I'm waiting in the wings. I'm waiting in the sidelines before I can enter the stage. You've ever heard the term break a leg, right? Break a leg started because years ago, actors, especially if you were, you know, like not an ensemble, but if you were like the understudy, or if you were a fill-in person, it was tradition to tell them to break a leg, because if you were breaking a leg, that meant you were actually entering the stage. You were breaking past that barrier of the hard leg and the soft leg to enter in to do a show. We also then start bringing in backdrops. Your backdrop can be anything from a cyc, which is a white piece of material that you can shine lights onto to create an illusion. Or we might even bringing in an actual wall for them, which we can hide stuff behind as well. So one thing I get a lot of people that they'll come and watch a show and they want to see the magic backstage. They want to see how things are created. Much like on a television studio, what you see in front of the camera is not the same as what you're going to see backstage. You have to do a lot of ducking. When you're backstage, you have to get through a lot of low areas because the set, where it may look really high over here, it's all an illusion. It's lower down. There's even sometimes we've had sections where there's no stage to walk through. We've actually had to cut out portions of it in order to fit a set piece or to fit a band or something like that. So you can start to walk across, but you might hit like a dead leg area and you have to go around the backstage to get back through. So, but people do like to see that. They want to see how exactly how does the magic happen? So we do take people on tours and we'll show them, we'll show them the backstage. We'll show them how the magic is made. They like to see, especially on the black box set. The bigger theaters, you actually get the fly system that you can bring stuff in and out on, or they have the tracks and all that. We don't have any of that here because we are so small. We have, however, flown people. When we did Bat Boy, the show actually starts out in a complete blackout where all you see is 3 lights drop from the ceiling. And then as the environment around you starts to come to life, you realize that those 3 lights that dropped are actually actors that rappelled in from a catwalk up above on the 2nd level and would basically just drop themselves into the scene to start the show.
Oh, wow.
We did Angels in America years ago, and that involved, having to fly the angel in and out. So we had to build in a track system for that so we could fly her in, fly her out, hook her up, that kind of thing. So on shows like that, people want to see what exactly did you do. Or recently we did Avenue Q. Everyone wanted to go backstage and see how exactly the puppets' houses worked. Because all the audience is seeing are these windows that open up and they have an entire apartment that they're looking at. And then they want to see, like, how is that possible? And a lot of that was just our set designer who found child-sized, like, doll furniture from Ross that he went and bought and just put onto these contraptions that we could move around backstage to create the different looks. We could slide it into the window and slide it out of the window. A lot of it he actually kept from the first time we did Avenue Q over a decade ago. So it was the same apartments essentially that we were using, just new, actors in that role. But everyone wanted to go backstage and see it. They wanted to see, how did the puppets do this? Or how did you do the puppets even? Because it was such a huge cast of puppets that they saw on stage that people wanted to see it. So we bring people back. We let them tour. We'll throw with them some, theater terms here and there to kind of like dazzle them, but without fully giving away all the magic of what's happening back there. Because, you do want to kind of keep some of the magic to yourself of how you're creating it. I mean, I used to joke that I'm going to start seeing shows where the actors are all done on Skype and you're just going to see the crew walking through with, a monitor. Who knew that now here we are where you have to zoom in to watch your actors do their shows because they can't come within 6 feet of each other. So one of the things MVT started doing when the coronavirus hit, and we actually started on pretty much that first week, we started doing a thing called MVT Live. And so what we do is we bring in different guest artists who have a connection with MVT or they have a connection to someone at MVT. And so we've had singers, we've had actors, we've had jazz musicians, but it's Fridays at 4:00. Okay. Our technical director, who is also an actor, acts as our host for it. Okay. And while people are on there, they get to hear a little update about what's going on with MVT during the coronavirus. And then they get to see a nice little bit of entertainment. So it's streamed live on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. And then about an hour and a half after it airs, it goes back in for the replay mode. Once YouTube has, finish whatever they have to do to it, it'll come back on for re-airing. Entertainment in general right now, it's very important for people. They need to, get out of their houses and see something and, just kind of get away from what's going on in the world. So we are a 501c3, so we exist a lot on donations. Box office itself covers a very small amount of what it takes to run the business. And like a lot of people, they ask, why is it so important to donate to a community theater? Well, the reason why you donate to a community theater is so that we can charge you the smaller ticket price versus what you would actually have to pay to come and see a show. If we weren't surviving off donations, we would be a theater that's going to have to charge you, $100, $200 to come see a show because you have to cover not only the building expenses, but royalties and paying actors and paying musicians and paying for your crew, that sort of thing. So because of the donations that come through, we're able to charge less money for people to come and see the shows. And theater is a very important thing for people, entertainment in general. I mean, not just act like musicals and plays, but concerts and movies and all that kind of stuff. Entertainment is a very important thing for people, especially nowadays.
Next time on Hawaii Entertainment News.
I've thought about that a lot because I get asked that a lot about, you know, what is it about the still? There's something about the one moment in time rather than capturing a period of time that I just resonate with. And I think part of it was growing up looking at rock and roll magazines and these rock star moments, you know, like, and these rock star photos by Jim Marshall was one of my, really inspired me a lot. Neil Preston, another photographer, inspired me a lot. So I was trying to draw into that classical approach to photography. And it just always resonated with me to get that sliver of time that's so narrow that captures an emotion that can resonate with you for a long period of time, rather than capturing a long period of time or like a whole song or something on video. It just always worked for me.
Hawaii Entertainment News, where we will talk about all the news that's happening around the film and entertainment industry in Hawaii.
You're supposed to say, I told you so.
Enough! Are you okay?
Oh my gosh, he's Superman!
This is a video game, which means we all have special skills.
Is that it? I think so.